Some movies win awards, others get standing ovations, but these, they got banned. Welcome to Cineflix, and today we're counting down our picks for the most banned and controversial movies in film history. For this list, we'll be diving into films that sparked global outrage, ignited protests, and in some cases, got flat out banned. Whether it was due to violence, religion, politics, or just being way too ahead of their time, these movies pushed boundaries and paid the price. Oh, and just a heads up, some of the topics we cover are intense, so viewer discretion is advised. Number 10, Blue is the Warmest Color from 2013. It won the Palme d'Or and sparked outrage almost everywhere else. Blue is the Warmest Color is a coming-of-age romance between two young women, praised for its emotional depth, but infamous for its extremely explicit sex scenes. Tunisia banned it outright, calling it immoral. Lebanon faced pressure from religious groups and pulled it from select theaters. Singapore gave it the axe completely, labeling the content prolonged and graphic. Russia refused wide distribution, citing its anti-LGBTQ laws. Even in the US, it received an NC-17 rating, essentially a box office death sentence. Australia released it with an R-18, but parent and religious groups still demanded a ban. In France, strangely enough, it got a 12+ rating, causing an uproar from child advocacy groups. Behind the scenes, things weren't any calmer. The actresses later criticized the director for the intense, uncomfortable shooting process, raising questions about artistic boundaries and exploitation. Whether seen as a bold exploration of love or a product of the male gaze, the film remains one of the most debated LGBTQ+ dramas of the 21st century. Even today in many regions, you still can't watch it. Number 9, Cannibal Holocaust from 1980. Found footage, real animal deaths, and a director arrested for murder? Yeah, this one's on another level. Cannibal Holocaust tells the story of a film crew lost in the Amazon, but its brutal realism made it feel way too real. Just 10 days after its release in Italy, the film was seized, and Deodato was charged with obscenity and then with murder. Why? Prosecutors thought the actors had actually been killed on camera. Deodato had to bring them to court, alive, to clear his name. Even then, the real animal killings on screen, turtles, monkeys, pigs, led to ongoing animal cruelty charges and bans worldwide. The UK listed it as a video nasty, banning it from 1983 to 2001. Australia, New Zealand, Norway, Iceland, and Finland either banned it or heavily censored it. In the US, there was no federal ban, but plenty of theaters refused to show it. Canada? Banned in some provinces, allowed in others. Decades later, some hail it as a brutal critique of media exploitation, but for many, it's still one of the most disturbing films ever made. Either way, Cannibal Holocaust remains a landmark of extreme cinema, and one of the most banned films in history. Number 8, Brokeback Mountain from 2005. It wasn't horror, violence, or politics that got this one banned, just love. Brokeback Mountain told the emotional story of two men falling for each other in 1960s Wyoming, and while it won critical acclaim and 3 Oscars, including Best Director, it also hit a wall of global censorship. China, despite co-producing the film, banned it over moral concerns. In the Middle East, including Saudi Arabia and the UAE, the film was blacklisted due to its LGBTQ+ content. Malaysia and Indonesia followed suit, calling it inappropriate for public viewing. Even in the Caribbean, cinemas in the Cayman Islands pulled the film entirely. In the US, there was no official ban, but some theaters in conservative regions refused to screen it. Italy faced backlash when a regional broadcaster censored the film's intimate scenes on TV. And in Russia, it didn't face a formal ban, but its distribution was minimal, and later its themes clashed with the country's anti-LGBTQ propaganda laws. Despite everything, Brokeback Mountain broke barriers and opened mainstream cinema to queer storytelling, but its global reception proved just how divided the world still was, and is, on LGBTQ+ representation. Number 7, The Da Vinci Code, 2006. What do you get when you mix murder mysteries, secret societies, and a married Jesus? A global religious firestorm. Based on Dan Brown's best-selling novel, The Da Vinci Code suggested that the church covered up the true history of Christ, and religious leaders around the world were not having it. Lebanon banned the film outright. Egypt pulled it from theaters just days after its release following pressure from Christian groups. In Jordan and Sri Lanka, protests led to government crackdowns. India allowed a release, but added a disclaimer and saw regional bans in places like Goa and the Northeast. The Philippines slapped on an R18 rating and a warning label. Even China pulled the film after just 2 weeks, despite its strong box office run. The Vatican officially denounced the movie, and church leaders in Russia, Greece, and other countries urged boycotts. Despite, or maybe because of the backlash, the film made over $750 million worldwide. Whether you saw it as thrilling fiction or theological blasphemy, the Da Vinci Code proved just how powerful and provocative pop culture can be. Number 6. Pink Flamingos from 1972. Pink Flamingos wasn't just controversial, it was designed to be. This underground cult classic follows a competition for the title of Filthiest Person Alive, featuring scenes of incest, bestiality, and literal coprophagia. Yep, you heard that right. Banned in Australia for decades, refused classification in the UK until the 1980s, and only released uncut in 2008. Canada saw provincial bans. Nova Scotia and Ontario said no thanks. Switzerland, Norway, and New Zealand flat out blocked it. In the US, and it was never banned federally, but police raided midnight screenings in conservative towns. Critics were divided. Some called it trash, others hailed it as radical satire. But one thing's clear, Pink Flamingos pushed every button it could, its legacy, defining the midnight movie movement and turning John Waters into the king of bad taste. To this day, it's still banned or restricted in multiple countries, and almost never shown without a serious warning. Number 5. The Last Temptation of Christ from 1988. When a legendary director took on a religious epic, the reaction wasn't divine, it was explosive. The Last Temptation of Christ imagined a deeply human version of Jesus, one who faced temptation, doubt, and even dreamed of a life with Mary Magdalene. That fictional take, it didn't sit well with religious institutions around the globe. In the US, Christian groups protested hard. Some theaters got bomb threats. In France, a cinema showing the film was firebombed, injuring 13 people. Countries like Turkey, Greece, Mexico, Chile, Argentina, the Philippines, and Singapore banned outright. Even Blockbuster Video, America's go-to rental chain, refused to carry it. The Vatican condemned the film. In India, it sparked mass protests and was pulled by the government. And in South Africa, it was banned, then released with strict ratings. Scorsese made it clear this wasn't gospel, it was a personal, spiritual exploration. But that didn't stop global outrage. Despite the chaos, it earned critical acclaim and an Oscar nomination for Best Director. Number 4. Salo, or the 120 Days of Sodom from 1975. Torture, fascism, and unspeakable acts. This wasn't just controversial, it was pure cinematic shock. Salo reimagines the Marquis de Sade's infamous novel in Nazi-occupied Italy, following 4 elites who kidnap teens for a twisted journey of abuse and dehumanization. From the moment it premiered, governments freaked out. Italy seized the film and charged Pasolini with obscenity. Australia banned it for decades. The UK refused to classify it until 2000. New Zealand, Ireland, and several Nordic countries also blocked it completely. In the US, while it wasn't banned nationally, customs agents seized copies, and cities across the country refused to show it. France saw violent protests and even arson attacks at screenings. Video rental stores around the world blacklisted it. Then things took a darker turn. Pasolini was murdered before the film's release, leading some to connect his death to the movie's brutal themes. While some scholars now defend Salo as a political allegory on fascism and power abuse, others see it as a film that crossed every line. It remains one of the most disturbing and censored films ever made. Number 3, The Exorcist from 1973. When it comes to horror films that shook the world, this one made heads spin, literally. The Exorcist wasn't just scary, it was scandalous. Its graphic depictions of demonic possession, blasphemy, and a 12-year-old girl cursing and levitating? Yeah, not exactly family-friendly. In the UK, it got an X rating for theaters, but when it hit VHS, the British Board of Film Classification refused to classify it under the new Video Recordings Act. Translation: banned from home video for 15 years. Ireland banned it entirely. Singapore kept it off the screens for 25 years, and in Malaysia, the Middle East, and parts of Europe, it was either banned, heavily censored, or edited into something barely recognizable. Audiences fainted, vomited, and reportedly had heart attacks during screenings. Religious groups protested outside cinemas, calling it dangerous and blasphemous. And just when things cooled off, the 2000 re-release, the version you've never seen, reignited the panic thanks to the infamous spider-walk scene. Even with the controversy, it earned 10 Oscar nominations and made horror history. But its legacy? Forever tied to moral panic and the power of cinematic fear? Number 2. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974. It didn't need buckets of blood to traumatize a generation. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre rewrote the rules of horror with its gritty, documentary-style terror and relentless dread. But many countries weren't fans of Leatherface's power tool antics. The UK's film board refused to classify it at all, effectively banning it until 1999. Ireland said nope for over 2 decades. Australia flat out banned it in several states, and Germany locked it away under youth protection laws until 2011. Despite showing very little gore, its chaotic sound design, grimy realism, and disturbing family dynamic pushed it into censorship crosshairs. In the US, there wasn't an official ban, but many theaters pulled it after backlash. Canada saw a split response. Some provinces screened it, others refused classification. Critics couldn't agree. Was it art house horror or exploitation trash? But one thing's for sure, it sparked decades of debate over censorship, morality, and what audiences should or shouldn't be allowed to see. Today, it's a cult classic. Back then, it was too raw for the world to handle. Number 1, A Clockwork Orange from 1971. This movie didn't just push buttons, it smashed them. Based on Anthony Burgess's dystopian novel, A Clockwork Orange served up a disturbing cocktail of ultraviolence, psychological control, and sexual assault, all set to Beethoven. And audiences? They weren't ready. While the UK never officially banned it, Kubrick himself requested the film be pulled from distribution in 1973 after death threats were made against his family. That led to a de facto ban in Britain that lasted nearly 3 decades. Ireland fully banned it from 1973 to 1999. South Korea didn't lift its restrictions until 2001. Singapore? Still banned. In the US, the film was slapped with an X rating, forcing an edited re-release to get into theaters, and in Canada, some provinces, like Alberta and Nova Scotia, just flat out refused to screen it. The blend of classical music and stylized brutality sparked worldwide panic. Critics asked, is this art or is it dangerous? Decades later, it's studied in film schools, but its legacy is still tied to one of the most controversial censorship stories in cinema history. Enjoyed our picks? Then don't miss this other deep dive from Cineflix. And hey, if you're into banned films, wild movie facts, and cinematic controversy, be sure to subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next reel.